What's up, guys? Carmen here with Pittsburgh White Shorts coming at you guys with yet another digital deck tech. As some of you guys might know, I love Summer Pockets, so I wanted to go over a deck I've been wanting to profile for a long time today, which is BarGate, which is a pretty unique build that I haven't seen a lot of people play. Um, Going forward, we're probably going to mix in more Japanese content into the channel, specifically with our deck tech, since we've gotten through a lot of the English stuff that we wanted to cover. So look forward to that in the future. So getting right into it, why would you want to play BarGate? So, contrasting to a lot of the other Summer Pockets decks that are out there, stuff like Win Bar, or Win Standby, or even Win Gate, this one is a much more traditional playstyle. You're not running Shiroha, you have a more traditional non-interactive on Attack Plus. Opens up a lot of deck spaces in the deck, and also runs a more traditional sort of like burnout finisher at the top, and you can control the damage. And another thing is it utilizes a lot of the more unique profiles in Summer Pockets that don't show up in any other deck due to like color restrictions or space restrictions, since a lot of Summer Pockets lists are like really tight and don't have a lot of space for a lot of cool tech. And there are a lot of cool profiles in the set that you'll just never see. So that was a big thing with this deck when I was working with it, is I wanted to fit in a lot of the cool, like really nasty, really interesting profiles that are available to the set. So getting right into the cards. This one should come to no surprise for people who are familiar with Summer Pockets. We got the Umi coin flip. On play, she's 3k. After that, she drops down to 15. And then at the beginning of your opponent's attack phase, reveal the top card of your deck. If it's level 1 or higher, you pop this to hand. So this is basically really the only good fix for yellow, and it's also one of the only good plussing zeros. Yellow isn't big in this deck. If you really don't like the coin flip, you can probably run the Sugumi from the trial deck, just the free runner, the blue one. But I really like this card. I'm a big believer in coin flips. When this one specifically in this deck whiffs, you don't really care about it as much. It's not as important as when you're in the Shiroha builds where you need to like you want to amass so much extra hand to like loot with your Shirohas into your other turn. But yeah, this one, it's still really good. When it goes off, it's just like extra hand's always crazy. And I'm a big believer in the card. But like I said, if you hate it, you can swap it out. We run 4 of it because it's our main field plussing 0. Moving on, we got the Kumoemon Riki. So this is a Riki when it becomes reversed. You pay 1, clock yourself 1, send this to memory. Only searches for pirates. The pirate count in our deck is very low compared to something like 8 bar or even Win Bar. So the thing that you're really grabbing is you're only really grabbing your level 1 Climax combo. The Kumoemon down there at the bottom. I've listed all the Kumoemons that we run in our deck that we can grab. Or sometimes you just grab another made Kumoemon that you want to send to memory. The big thing with this deck is that our finisher has a really heavy memory requirement. And we don't want to run a lot of these bad cards that you see show up in other lists that are with memory, like a lot of these yellow cards that have like really steep costs to send them to memory. Things like this that either coincidentally go to memory or cards that put other cards in memory for us are what we're looking for. We want to keep like our cards that go to memory lean. We don't want to overextend or like warp our choices and play bad cards just to facilitate our finisher. So as a Riki, this is pretty good. It has to die. We don't have a lot of targets, but it's more than enough, and it gets you into your level 1 combo, which is the important part. It's also a pretty cute card. Next, all right, so we got the Self-Tap Brainstormer. The Shiroha Brainstormer, big important thing here is that it's time. We really want to set a time back row as quickly as we can to facilitate our early plays. But this is just Self-Tap Salvage Brainstormer. It has the on-play Surveil. I've talked about this before in my Nats deck list tech, where the on-play Surveil, look at top card, you leave it there, put it in grave. Is really good for obviously like 5-card brainstorms on first deck if you need to hit brainstorms, and then you can also use it to like confirm triggers for like nasty lethals. So the card has a lot of utility if you think outside the box with it. And it's just, you know, self-tap salvage brainstormers are like really good. I think it's my preferred brainstorm profile. So really good card, really good second effect. Moving on. Okay, so we got a good card for bad girl. So this Smoothie. On play, you can ditch a card and bond to the Photos event, which I'll get into later, which helps you get rid of like clogged out bars. We're only running 4, but you know, Climax floods do happen. And then the other thing is on play, similar to the Aya and Bang Dream, how she can basically get a free salvage. This one's not exactly free, but what it does is it moves a Summer Pockets character from your waiting room and exchanges it with the bottom card of your clock. And that's important for the photos event when we get to it, but basically it's kind of like the Maya Aya synergy that happens in Aya Lisa Bang Dream. But with a couple more steps, and it's stock costed, but the card goes to memory. It's a little bit more complicated, but this card makes photos like actually pretty decent, because it's giving you ditch outs, it's filtering your hand, and then the photos itself is like a go even on compression as it goes to memory. So yeah, not a bad card. This, like I said before, acting as our ditch out. So we don't have to run a lot of like the Kumoemon Climax ditch that you see a lot of go in a lot of the green decks. All right, moving on. All right, so we got the best girl, got a good card. So this is like the Saya from Bang Dreams, it drops Salvager, except when you mill 2 on play, it gains 1,000 power for every character you hit, not when you hit a climax. So more often than not, this is going to swing in for like 3 or 4k, which will help you control board in the early game, since Umi obviously only goes to 3. And then, of course, her drop salvage as well also gives 1,000 power. So it's a pretty good support card. We fill our grave like crazy in the deck. We're always trying to mill. So this card ends up being like better running than the blue drop searcher, especially because that would be off color. So if you don't like a lot of drop salvagers and you don't really care about the free mill, I really like cards that have free mill. You can run the Kumoemon drop searcher in here, run like a 1/1 split or something like that. This is sort of a flex spot, but I really like this drop salvage in the deck, and I think it has really good synergy. And of course, helps us fix for red at level 1. We want to try to hit green and red at level 1 if we can to put down a support card. It's really important to get our support card out as early as we can, because it gets a lot of incremental advantage throughout the game. All right, so moving into our level 1s, we got the Kumoemon here. So this attacks in at like 7,500 for no reason. It's bigger than the on reverse combo, level 1 combo in the set, off the same trigger, but this one's on attack. And then on attack, this is reveal the top 2 cards of your deck. Your opponent chooses a character or event among those cards. You put that card into your hand, and then the other one goes to grave. So if you reveal a card and a climax, your opponent doesn't get to choose, you just get the other card. So a lot of people are really down on this combo. This combo is actually fine. It gives you decent enough deck speed. Your opponent has to give you a card, and this deck turns like a card into the card you want more often than not with the Photos engine. So it helps you keep, and the Photos engine itself will help keep this card relevant later in the game. Because if this is swinging in at 700 on Climax combo, well, it swings in at 6.5 if you're just playing the game, and then 7,500 on Climax combo. This can be relevant at level 2 more often than not. So the fact that this is a on-attack Climax combo that doesn't mill too much, even if it's not controlled, so milling 2 is fine on second deck for the most part, will keep it relevant much longer, and you can like keep recurring this combo because it's on bar. So the fact that it stays relevant for longer really helps bridge the gap, since Summer Pockets doesn't have, it only has like one early play, and the early play itself isn't very big. So yeah, this sort of helps bridge that gap between our level 1 and level 3. But yeah, you can mind game your opponent into giving you the best card by BMing when you reveal the 2 cards. Make sure to always lie about what your cards do so they read them or ask you what they actually do. Jokes aside, though, the selectivity is actually fine. Like I said, you can turn a card into a card that you want more often than not in the list with your filtering tools. So don't have to worry about it if your opponent gives you something dead or something that they would think is dead. Most cards aren't. Moving on, so this is your third lane. This Smoothie, as long as you have the Photos in memory, when it gets a reverse, you get this blind stock off the top of your deck. This is good for sniping small lanes, since Kumoemon is like really big. So you don't really have to worry about power in your other lanes. But if your opponent gives you an opportunity to snipe a small lane and get some more stock, our end game is very like resource heavy. So the more stock we have, the better. That's just a really good fill card. That's about it. Oh, and if people crash it while you have the Photos, it does go cross turn. So sometimes you can get free stock on your opponent's turn if you can get in there with a cheeky backup or something. All right, so this is like the coolest card in the deck, I think. So this support is disgusting. So it's a frontal 500, and then every turn you can tap this card to look at the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck and put them back in any order. So that's just like cheating at Weiss. Unlike a lot of cards like this, right, where they let you look at the top card of your opponent's deck. I know like the Len and GGO lets you look at the top 2, things like that. Unlike those cards, this card lets you interact with the data you get instead of just having the data, which makes it a lot nastier. Say you look at your opponent's deck and there's a Climax the second card down and they have an open lane. You just like move the Climax to the top, swing in, it cancels, and then you swing in the open lane. Like the fact that it lets you like clear Climaxes off and like screw with the top of your opponent's deck is like really, really good. I really hate on these cards when they don't let you move the cards that you see. Because I guess when you can't move them, it has more value on your turn because you're on the attack. But on your opponent's turn, if you can't move the cards, it gets a lot worse. But this card is super, super nasty. Also has time trait, really important for our early play. This plus the Brainstorm is our time back row. It's very important. And yeah, the incremental value is nuts. It also has really crazy synergy with our finisher, which I'll get into when we get to that. So moving on, the event at level 1. So this is photos in the storehouse. So when you play this, it goes to memory. It gives 500 power on your turn to all of your Summer Pockets characters. And it lets you take a card in your clock, add it to hand, and then clock yourself from top of deck. So in combination with the 0/0 Smoothie, this like becomes sort of like a pay 1 salvage. Pay 1 drop salvage. It just becomes, the card becomes like a more complicated drop salvage. But then this goes to memory, so it's like a drop salvage that goes even on compression because the card you play goes to memory. So yeah, it's not bad. The 500 power that like steamrolls, because you want to play as much of these as you can, because our finisher pops cards in memory, doesn't have to be characters, so we can pop the event. That's the big reason we're playing this card, is because it's a good card that goes to memory, the good engine that goes to memory. We're not stretching ourselves to play bad cards that go to memory. We're just playing cards that are from playable to good that go to memory, instead of stretching ourselves to play some of those yellow cards that I think are questionable that send them cards to memory. Anyway, the 500 power sort of steamrolls, keeps us relevant at level 2, like I said, with the Kumoemon. And the photos engine is like actually pretty good. So yeah, definitely one of the cards that you look in the deck and you think like this might not be that great, but I really implore you guys to play with it. The engine is a lot better than you think. Moving on into level 2. All right, so we run one of the anti-change sack counter. I don't really want to get into this. You just run this card. Sack anti-change. It's hard anti-change. It's not waiting room. They can't encore it. It does give them stock, and that sucks. And like it doesn't even matter that this isn't a great anti-change. It doesn't even matter. You still play it. Because if your opponent sees you take it, they just start playing around it, even if you never play it. Anti-change counters are just really, really good. And then sack counter, of course, can just save you against some certain decks. You can remove on reverse finishers. You can screw them over. It's just too good to not run. So we definitely run it. I won't get into it more than that. All right, so this one's a little spicy. We got we got Faithless looting. So this Kumoemon, she's a 3K backup, but that's not the reason we care about it. So when you clock this card, as long as you have 4 or more other Summer Pockets characters at the beginning of your Climax phase, before you play a Climax, that's important. Draw 2, ditch 2. So that rips you into bar when you're bad. Filters out Climaxes when you're flooded. And it's pirate trait, so we can grab it off Ricky if we have to, if we just like need a plus and we need to send our Ricky to memory. It's a pretty good card to like just have in hand because it'll filter us later. I think these backups that have like additional utility are really, really good, and the only builds that were really playing this were the win bar lists because they had the green, in the list. They could run this, but the Faithless looting effect, the Climax phase, is just really, really good. That stuff is super nasty. If you just end up having this card in your hand, it's just going to filter you going to level 1. It can rip you into Climaxes. It can rip you into events. It can rip you into stuff you need. So just a really, really cool card. Only as a one-of, and if you hate it and you don't like it, you can drop it for another sack counter or another card, or maybe even another early play killer, whatever you want. Speaking of early play killer, let's get into this one. So this promo, the Kumoemon promo, it's 11-5 on attack against level 3s, but this one gains an extra soul. I really think these soul beaters are pretty good. They have a little bit less power, but since we're sort of playing the storehouses and stuff like that, this will probably go in for like 12-5, maybe 13. Well, 12-5, or maybe even 13 if it's like you put the support behind it. The extra soul is really good. I'm really a big fan of that. But if you don't want to spend $20 to get this card, because it's like 1980 yen, you can just run the Smoothie, which is just 13k on attack and has a Climax combo that you'd never play. Because yeah, like I said, this card's like $20. And you probably don't have it. So yeah, you can easily replace it. But it's also Pirate, so we can grab it off Ricky. Another good utility card to grab off Ricky if we need to late game send a card to memory to make sure our finisher goes off. So yeah, just something to think about. All right, so the early play, the Umi early play, the only early play in the set. And this is the reason why we run the double time back row. So what this card can do is on play, if you have 2 or less Climax, early play. And then on play, as long as you have 2 or more other time characters, which is our back row, our Brainstormer, and our support, choose a card in your clock, choose a character in your clock, and put it into your memory. So this is how we cheat good cards in our deck into our memory. And like I said, instead of running bad cards, they go to memory. So this sort of helps us sidestep the memory condition. It elongates our level 2 while setting up for our finisher. Insane finish synergy with like all over in the list. This card's everything you want. The only problem is that it's pretty small. It's probably not going to live back, but like this deck is sort of like a fishbowl deck. You don't really care about what your opponent's doing that much. You clear their lanes when you can. But since you're all on attack and it's all about throwing these cards in memory, you're prioritizing your strategy or messing with your opponents. So you just sort of fishbowl, you get in there, and this card's perfect for that because it might cheat you an extra turn at level 2. Really good. But yeah, that's about it. The big thing is that we're cheating our good cards into memory instead of playing a bunch of bad cards that will go there by themselves. Moving into the actual level 3, we got Nanami. So Nanami on play, top checks 3, adds 1 to the hand, digs for her own Climax, which is a gate, by the way. And then her Climax combo is on attack, pay 2, ditch 2, pop any number of cards in your memory to waiting room. And then this card gains 5,000 power, and you burn for the number of cards you pop from memory times 2. Okay, so you pop 1, it's burn 2, pop 2, burn 4, pop 3, burn 6. So this can get really crazy. Obviously, you don't want to be burning for more than 4. But if you think about our back row 2, we can top check 2. Look at the top 2 cards of our opponent's deck. If they're clean, that's 2 free damage we get in there. And it also lets you confirm other stuff. Obviously, if there's Climax there, we're not going to attack with Nanami first. Lets you set your triggers. Makes this a lot scarier. If you keep on top of your opponent's deck state like you should be. And the fact that this is going to swing in on Climax combo for 16k, like if you don't win that lane, like your opponent's just doing something ridiculous. The cost is expensive, but it's manageable. We have more than enough cards that go to memory that are also gaining us additional advantage. So the memory requirement isn't that big of a deal, but pay 2 for the deck can be pretty rough if you didn't cheat into an extra turn at 2 or didn't maybe get an extra turn at 0. You can kind of have a bit of a stock problem. Playing one of these is fine. We have a way to make our finisher less stock intense, which will be our next card, which I'll get into it when we get there. But it is manageable, even if it seems very expensive. A lot of people looked at this card and they said, well, it's like there's no way. That's just way too many resources. We can't get there. But it's actually totally fine. You only typically field 2 of these in a third lane, which brings me to our next card. So this is the sickest card that no other deck can play. So this green card, the first effect is flavor text. We don't care. Like gains extra power if you have a Hyrie on field. It's like you don't play any Hyrie cards in like any Summer Pockets deck. And if you play it right, this is a free third lane. So what this card does is on play, choose a character in your clock and heal it to field. So what that can do, here's the nut play. All right, so you have 2 Nanamis in this in hand, or let's go even crazier. Let's say we have 3. Let's give ourselves options. 3 Nanamis and 1 of this. We clock a Nanami, we draw 2. We didn't get into our gate, so we play the first Nanami. We get into our gate, then we play this as our third lane, summon our other Nanami for free. So for 4 stock, we got a full field. And then to double Nanami, we have to have 2 stock overhead before going to our attacks. So as long as you have 6 stock and you get into the gate, you can play 2 Nanamis in this for 4 and then do double Nanami on attack. So that keeps our finisher fairly stock efficient. I mean, it's still expensive, but the saving 2 on this makes it not that bad. And it also helps you preserve cards in hand. So that's really good. Because the Nanami also, it's pay 2, ditch 2, pop cards from memory. So you need to have stock and hand to pop off with this card. So we need a lot of resources, and Smoothie helps keep that both of those for us. Because she's letting us clock for free, drawing us an additional card on top of our turn, and then it's also saving us 2 stock, so long as we are a good enough player to get into the gate on the clock plus the first Nanami. And honestly, at that point, if you don't get into your gate off clock and the first Nanami, you should probably play your off finisher in the 3rd lane instead of a second Nanami, which is this. We run one of the Musashi. This is a decent enough off finisher. I'm kind of down on Musashi's lately, but they're fine. We have enough yellow in the deck, coincidentally, to support it. If you choose to not run the coin flip and you run blue, maybe there's some blue cards that you can run. We only run 4 bars, so the Kumoemon that puts a bar back into your deck probably isn't good enough. But it might be. You might like that card more. That's an easy replacement for this card if you want to run blue. And this one, on play from hand, it swings in for 11k base, which is pretty good. So you can also gives you option to clear lanes. The card's also adorable, so that's another reason I wanted to run it. It also has some of the best SP art in Weiss. But getting off topic. So yeah, that's the list. Well, here we got the Climax. So it's BarGate, 2 plusing triggers. Really good Climax lineup in general. I'm pretty sure this is one of the most optimal Climax splits that you can get. You want bar for level 1 because every time you attack, it's an additional chance to get into your Climax. So you don't have to mulligan as hard for your Climax to go off at level 1. And then, of course, you have Gate to help keep your hand full throughout the game. So really good 8 plusing trigger Climax lineup. And here's the full list. Here's it all laid out. Lots of repetition for consistency. Flex spots, like I said, if you don't like the Umi, you can run the free runner. If you're gonna run the free runner, you can't support the Musashi, so you can probably run the Kumoemon that throws the bar back in your deck, and that card is blue, or some other blue card if you'd like. But the rest of the list is pretty tight. The Faithless looting backup, you could also move that around or make some changes there if you don't like that card. But pretty simple list. Has a, like I said, fishbowl-y, non-interactive strategy. So you really don't care as much as what your opponent's doing. You just want to make sure you get those cards into memory and make sure you have the resources to pop off with Nanami and set some cool burns with your support back row. Basic strategy, level 1, we run out our field, or level 0, we run out our field plusing zeros, we run out Umi. We make sure our Rickies are down, Rickies are going to memory, searching our Kumoemons for level 1. First deck brainstorms aren't as bad in this deck because you're going to go for 5 with the on-play brainstorm, so don't feel bad about having to do that if you have to. We have the drop salvager to make sure, if we have some sack cancels and cards go to our grave, we can get them, because we want to get into that support for level 1 if we can, because we want to be green-red. Being just mono green at level 1 is fine, but you want to get into that support as quickly as you can. So at level 1, we're going to play as many Kumoemons as we can. We're going to set our support back row, make sure our time back row is set for level 2. We're going to start playing as many storehouses as we can. We're going to set some good salvages. Helps us make our level 1 combo more consistent because we're making sure that we pull Kumoemons that go to our grave into our clock, and then we grab them with storehouse, and then we play the Kumoemons. So level 1's really consistent in this deck between bar and the storehouse engine, so you can pop off pretty much every game at level 1. Moving to level 2, we play Umi. That's it. We play the sack counter to mess with our opponent's early plays, or at least threaten it. We also probably play Kumoemon another time if we were lucky enough to get into another gate, or get into another bar. Recur that as many times as we can, since it's just on attack, and Kumoemon is probably big enough to clear some lanes as well after a couple storehouses. Finish your turn, like I said, we got the Nanami and Smoothie, sort of more stock efficient way to play out a double Nanami board, and then we have our Musashi as an off finisher. But yeah, that's basically it. This is not a deck I've seen a lot. If you want to see gameplay of this deck, Nico ran this list in at Burn One's locals, and they have some gameplay up for that. I'll link that video in the description to their channel. They also do match commentary on it, which is really cool. So if you want to see the list actually played, and I'm on the video actually in that match commentary because it was streamed. So if you want to hear us talk about it and you want to see some gameplay, I'll throw that video down there. You guys can go check that out and see the list played before you throw it together. And hey, since we're all kind of stuck in our houses now anyway, for reasons that cannot be named, you might throw this together, try it out on TTS, see what you think. It's a really fun list. The fact that you don't really care about what your opponent's doing makes it really fun. You just get to like rip through your deck, BM your opponent when you reveal 2 off Kumoemon. It's a lot of fun. And then you just burn out for a bunch of damage. Really fun. So yeah, before I go here, like I keep saying, I'm going to put this slide at the end of all our videos when we can. A lot of people find Weiss resources on YouTube and don't know where to go elsewhere, so I want to always try to include this slide when I can. So we got the 2 Discords, Card Games Discord and the Competitive Weiss Schwarz Discord. Go to these 2 places to set up webcam and tabletop simulator games, as well as talk about Weiss, talk about the meta. There's also buy-sell trade channels in those Discords too. But if you really want to do buy-sell trade, you probably want to go to the 2 Facebook groups, Global and NA. Global also posts like spoilers for Card of the Day too, with translations and stuff for JP. So if you're interested in that, definitely join that group and make sure your notifications are on so you get that information. And I also have all our Twitters down there. I tweet about Weiss a good bit. I don't know about the other guys, but I put all of our recurring cast, people who are on most of our videos, in that portion of the slide here. But yep, I think that's it in terms of upcoming content. We're still going to be doing set reviews for English decks, or not English decks, English sets that are coming. We have Fujimi already out. Adventure Time we're super hyped for. We're definitely going to do that as early as we can. And we might start doing some JP ones too. That's going to sort of come down to what our guys are into, stuff like that. They're pretty selective about what JP stuff they are into. And we also want to include more guests, which we've been doing. So we might have some guest videos and match commentary. We want to get back to that too. Maybe going to have to do some tabletop games if the lockdowns don't end soon. But it is what it is. But yeah, I think that's it. I'm signing off. Pittsburgh Weiss Schwarz. We'll see you in the next one.